the more we do this, the more we should unmask.
Yes.
So the more people can see, it's okay to randomly talk in a British accent.
And be totally weird. Apparently, I get more and more Kiwi.
Kiwi?
Yeah. Neil pointed this out to me the other day.
So
He get really, because I'm from New Zealand, but my Kiwi accent comes out more when I unmask. It's so strange.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard you in a Kiwi accent.
Oh no, I'm beaches.
Okay,
Anyway,
this is a tangent.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Girls That ADHD.
Hello.
Hi. In case you've forgotten, I'm Anushka.
And I'm Sayaka.
And we have ADHD. We're also practitioners.
Yeah.
And this podcast is hopefully your one-stop shop about all things to do with ADHD. It's a bit unhinged.
But we made it to season 2. So this is season 2 for those who are just tuning in.
Today we're talking about ADHD and masking.
Woohoo.
Yay! What's masking and why does it happen?
Why does it happen?
Okay.
Okay. Simple terms. So masking is kind of like putting up a facade of some sort in order to fit into societal expectations of how you should show up as a person in the world.
That is, I think you've nailed it.
Yeah.
I think it's something that you either do unconsciously or you do it consciously as well sometimes. Yeah. And it's this whole concept of suppressing, compensating for your symptoms and just trying to fit in, really, because otherwise I think there's this really big fear of like negative consequences as a result. Yeah. If you don't mask.
Yeah. And it is a real fear. You do have consequences sometimes when you don't mask.
Correct.
Yeah. Correct. Like if I was talking to someone and I'm like looking down there, like
look at the wall the whole time.
Yeah, they're gonna think I'm not interested or I'm just rude or arrogant or
she's up herself if you're not smiling.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. Smiling. And you're a woman and you're not smiling. How dare you? How dare you?
What's an example? What are some examples of like, some social expectations that we mask for?
I mean, do you mean like things we do, like eye contact and stuff, or?
Yeah, like eye contact, or like, I'm just thinking myself right now. Oh my God, writing emails. Okay. Email writing, already so hard. Yes. Right? Because it's tiring, it's a boring task. Yeah. I don't want to do it. But it is socially unacceptable to like send an email that doesn't go, "Hi, so-and-so, I hope this email finds you well. Fluff, fluff, fluff. Real point, fluff, fluff, fluff. Yes. Thank you, kind regards."
Yes.
Like, why can't I just get to the point? I know when I email you, I get right to the point. Yeah. It's like,
just do this.
Done. Can you do this, please?
Yes.
This is whatever.
And I'm like, yes.
Yes. And we're very short.
Thumbs up.
I mean, it's even like when you were moving to Sydney and you called me.
Yes. Oh my God. The amount I prepared for that conversation. I was like, oh yeah, this is the solution to this. These are the questions she's going to ask. La, 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 la. Yeah. And then I call up Anushka and I'm like, oh, I think I'm moving states. She's like, yeah, cool.
That was it. That was the whole call. And she's like, so do you have any questions? I was like, when are you moving? And then you were like, you told me the date and I was like, okay. Yeah. And you're like, so do you want to know about clients stuff? I'm like, well, are they online? And you're like, yeah. I'm like, cool. Anyone that's not online, see them online. And if they can't see online, they can see me. Yeah. And you were like, okay. Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, bye.
It was a 2-minute conversation. And I was like, cool.
And then you text me and you were like, this is the most neurodivergent conversation I've ever had.
Big life change, for sure.
Yeah. We sorted it out in less than 2 minutes.
Great. It was great.
Like, that was as straightforward as it was going to get. But, like, we can do that. And that's why we work well together. But I struggle. So, I mean, when we were hiring, bless her, I love our admin person. But when we were hiring for admin, how do you interview people? Do you remember in the interviews, I was like trying to be like, when you work with someone who's neurodivergent, but I just didn't know how to get it across. And I confused so many interviewees.
I think you just scared them. Because the way you said, you were like, working with neurodivergent people, like you made them sound like we were monsters and we were going to be evil and rude and mean. Where what you meant was we're just straightforward.
Yeah, like I didn't know how to be like, I'm going to be direct, but it's not because I'm being rude. I will just sometimes be like, can you do this? Yes. And I might forget to say please, or I might forget to be like, hey, can you do this? And then I will forget that I've told you to do something. Yes. Like, you know, that's what I was trying to get, but I forgot. And then I was like, how much experience do you have with working with people who have ADHD or autism? Because, like, you know, I just don't know how else to explain it. But yeah, I mean, there's just social expectations, and I feel like I'm being a bad person. I don't want to be a bad person.
No. Yeah. You're not. You're just being different to what is expected.
Correct.
Yes.
There's cultural expectations as well, right?
Cultural expectations, yeah.
I find that, like, okay, something I was trying to explain to my mum recently. She wanted me to go to a wedding. Actually, the wedding is this weekend. But she wanted me to go to some pre-wedding events for this family that I don't really know. Lovely family. Yeah. But, like, initially when she said it to me, I, like, seized up and I was like, oh, no, I don't want to go. And it wasn't because I don't like socializing. It was my brain was like, that's going to be, like, on a Tuesday, Wednesday night. I don't know anyone there. I'm going to feel super awkward. Yes. Like, I'm already going to be so tired because I know what my day looked like that week. And then I was like, oh, shit, like, I'm brown, so I can't disappoint my mom. So I went anyway, and it was really lovely, and the family is so wonderful, and, like, the bride was gorgeous and all that sort of stuff. But all those things did happen because it was like I had to put up, because, you know, especially when you're South Asian, you can't be sitting somewhere like, no, you know, and it's not okay if you're not participating. Yes. So it's like I had to, like, the drive there was about an hour, so I really like built up I stayed silent for the whole car ride, and then I got there and it was almost like I switched back on. I was like, hi everybody, you know, speaking and talking and joking and what. But I came home and I was knackered. Oh, it was so much.
Because it takes energy to like, even when you're having a conversation with someone in your head, or at least in my head, it's just like, okay, you stare at this person, you haven't looked at this person for 10 seconds, you have to give them a look and then smile, and then you can look away, and it's socially acceptable. If you don't look in the next 5 seconds, they're going to think you're weird and they're going to think you're uninterested.
It's actually so true, though. Like, eye contact's such a big one. I can't. Because I get distracted by your face, and then I've forgotten what you said to me. Yeah. You know, or like, so actually, this was end of last year. One of our provisional psychologists, I had to do an assessment to be a board approved supervisor. Right. So I was like, hey, like, can you come past and, like, I need to, like, do a mock supervision session with you and record it. And he was like, okay, Akash, also neurodivergent, right? Also has ADHD. So we're sitting at the dining table. I'm trying to do this, like, simulation or whatever. And we finished recording, and he's like, we made too much eye contact. I was like, yeah, I totally agree with you, because the whole time we were like, we can't make this look weird to whoever's going to be watching it. So we were, like, looking at each other properly, and he's like, I never want to look you in the eyes again for the next again. Yeah, he's like, ever again. Like, he's like, at least for the next 2 years. He's like, we've done enough of this. I was like, yeah, I agree with you. Yes, totally agree. I was like, this is so uncomfortable. I'm so aware of
so uncomfortable. Eye contact, even hugs. Like, so many people just go in for a hug the first time they meet you, and I'm like, you're not approved to hug me right now. I don't know you well enough yet. We're not there yet. I am so sorry.
And even in terms of, like, masking, it's just being a particular way, or being a particular, and you feel it in your body, because then sometimes you get home and you're just, it's exhausting having to be. Just, it feels like you're switched on all the time. And you don't get to be weird because you can't stim. One of my stimming things is, like, I vocalize a lot. So
I break out into song.
Yeah, I sing everything I do. Yes. Doing the laundry now, gonna fold some clothes, gonna put them away. Oh man, I forgot to fry the chicken. Yeah. Like, you know, shit like that. Yeah. I sing in my head.
Yeah, because it helps.
Yeah. Or I sing in accents, or I speak in accents. Yes. Or I say things out loud that I don't know. Yes. They're just, but, like, I get to, you know, I vocalize a lot, and you can't do that in front of people. No. Or when I was working in the school, in an office with other people, it's like I talk to myself a lot throughout the day. Yes. Even when I'm alone. I'll speak out loud, because,
of course, or else how would you process things?
Correct. Yes. Because I'm a verbal processor. Yes. So, but, like, it's frowned upon. So you can't do it all the time.
Yeah. Or, like, I'm tired, or I just have nothing to say, so I would just sit quietly in the corner.
Yeah, and say nothing.
But people perceive that as rude, or I'm not interested.
Or there's something wrong with you, or you sad.
Or I'm shy, and I'm like...
No, none of the above.
I just have nothing to say.
I just don't want to do anything. Yeah. I just don't want to experience that right now. I think some of the other reasons, like, you know, we've talked about social expectations, there's a fear of judgment, but I think there's also, like, negative experiences, right? Yes. Like, being criticized for having ADHD traits, whether if that's in childhood or in adulthood. It makes masking kind of necessary.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, like, I mean, you said like being perceived as a rude person, but even being perceived as like a lazy kid, or
God, as a lazy kid, or even like
if you just what's a common thing I hear? Like parents telling their kids, if you just thought a little bit more, like you're so smart, but if you just tried a little bit harder,
I'm like, I'm trying.
Yeah,
trust me,
because like masking also looks like looking like you're busy. Like for a lot of like my clients, or even friends who work in like either corporate or like those type of like, you know, office roles where you're, even if you're working from home, you have to look like you're online.
Yes.
It's like this whole concept of like, I need to look like I'm doing enough work when you're not really doing anything.
Yeah.
You're at your desk.
This is 9 to 5 scam.
Yeah. 9 to 5 is a scam. Who is working 9 to 5? 4 out of those 8 hours, you're doing jack shit.
Nobody.
And then you feel so bad when you're not doing anything.
Especially when you're working in the office and everyone's looking at you. You can't just like be lazy.
You can't go and take a nap.
Yeah, you can't take a nap. So you just have to be pretending to be on the computer, like, I don't know, doing something. And then that just adds, like, it takes extra energy, and so you actually don't get much work done because you're exhausted.
That's so true. And you come home and you're just wrecked. Yeah. Or you I think this is also one of those major contributors to ADHD burnout, where like because you're putting so much energy into like being a particular way and monitoring yourself and like, you know, pulling yourself back up again.
Yeah.
You just, after a little while, like there's only so long you can sustain that. And that causes emotional dysregulation. You know, you get upset, you get annoyed, you're like frustrated with things, you just, you know, like you're overstimulated by the things in your environment.
Yes. I think it's more like masking means you can't do the things that you need to do to regulate yourself.
Correct. I mean, a classic example of this is like, I bought loops and I love loops. They're great for like, you know, when you're outside in concerts and stuff. But again, coming back to the cultural aspect of it, imagine wearing loops to like a South Asian event, like where your parents are there and there's a bunch of aunties. They're going to think that you're not listening, but they're not going to understand that you need them to block out the other stuff so you can concentrate. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just little things like that that make a big difference for us.
Yeah.
It's so much harder to do because of the way that you'll then be perceived.
Exactly. Yeah, I can see like in the cultural implications, because especially like in South Asian culture, like you have to be in community. Like you have to show up.
You have to show up.
So ever since, well, actually, I don't think I've masked too well.
It's moving back home.
I don't think I've ever masked too well. I just didn't know that what was happening.
You're just a rebel child.
Yeah, so I was always thought of as like too shy or like rude because I wouldn't do all the things that you're societally expected to do.
Yeah.
When you like meet an auntie or like, you know, be in the crowd even though you really, really
don't want to be in the crowd.
So in terms of like culture wise, I would say I have been ostracized and I have felt like more out of place than usual, but all I was doing was being neurodivergent.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah. Like, you know, and if we bring it back to like, you know, on a more social level, if we're like looking outside of the culture aspect, it's like things like being late, you know?
Oh my God.
Or like, I mean, I have friends who have ADHD, and I know for a fact that when we say we're going to be somewhere at a particular time, because the other person will also be 10 minutes late, I will adjust myself. Like, we're both going to be late. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But then, like, you feel a really strong sense of shame if that's happening with your friends that are neurotypical, you know?
Yes.
Time blindness. Or, like, oh, my God, forgetting to text people. Like, really, really blessed at the moment that I have amazing friends who are really understanding. And one of my friends points it out to me. She's like, I text you. You didn't respond to me, but I do know that you love me. And I'm like, thank you, because I'm like, I put myself to so much shame because it feels like it's a lot of extra work for me to sit down and think of a response to your text. And I would much rather call you. I mean, I call you for things all the time for no reason, which I know is a bit weird.
You are like, all my friends are so bewildered that I pick up your calls.
Correct. One of them said this to me. They're like, Sayaka doesn't pick up calls, but she picks up your calls.
Yeah, like you are the only person I talk to on the phone, and it feels weird when you don't call me.
Yeah, because I call you and then I ramble. I start from mid-sentence as well. That's another thing I can't do with other people, but I do with you. Just middle of a sentence.
It is wild.
End a sentence.
It is a special thing that I only allow from you.
I feel so privileged right now. There's so much love. I think, you know, it's hard because, like, if you struggle with things like deadlines and time blindness and, you know, then, like, forgetting things as well. Like, forgetting things is a really massive one.
Yeah.
I mean, as we're recording today, there's been so many times where we've forgotten things.
Yes.
But it happens. And, like, you know, then that can even affect, like, sometimes your relationships with people as well. Like, oh, you forgot to do this thing. How come you didn't do that? You know?
And straightforwardness in relationships. Like, you always have to do everything in a compliment sandwich.
I hate compliment sandwich. You know, when I was working as a school psych, I asked for things to be written down so that I could have it in an email and like I would know what to do. And I remember being asked by somebody like, oh, are you sure you want that all like that evidence as like a paper trail? I was like, yes, because if I don't have it, I won't do it. Yes. I need you to have it written down that I need to do these things and when they need to be done by. And it's just, you know, or like when you're asking for feedback, everyone's like, oh, but you're such a wonderful... No, I don't care that I'm a wonderful person. I know exactly... that. Tell me what I need to do, because if you don't tell me exactly what I need to improve on... How will I know? Yeah. How will I know? How will you know?
I'm just wasting my time.
Exactly.
Don't waste my time.
Correct. Don't waste... I don't... How will I improve and then meet your standards, your ridiculous standards? Oh, man. And like the thing is, like, I think ADHD is like all rounder. Everybody's a people pleaser. Like I think as a trauma response almost, because there is like ADHD trauma. Whether if you've been diagnosed as a kid or later in life, we are people pleasers. Oh my god.
But also I think the trauma comes because you mask your whole life.
Correct.
Because you're always
you're being told off when you don't.
You're being told off when you're being authentic, so you pretend to be a person you're not, and that leads to trauma.
Like as when I was in school, believe it or not, I was not very, like, I didn't talk a lot. So, like, I was very shy as a kid until I was in year 10. But, like, one of the things I've been told my entire life is that I'm too loud. I talk too much. I take up a lot of space, you know, being told off for things like that. And it's like, after a little while, you're just like, shut up. And
I'm being too much.
Yeah. Am I too much?
How many times have you heard you're too much?
Oh, so often. It's so triggering. I fucking hate it. Yeah. Okay, what are the costs of masking ADHD?
I would say the biggest one is exhaustion and burnout.
Yeah, I think constantly pretending to be someone else.
Yeah.
And not pretending to be someone else like Hannah Montana. I mean, like being someone else.
Montana. Okay.
Like, because when you say, oh, you're masking, you're being someone else, everyone's like, no, I'm myself. It's like, no. In subtle ways, constantly pretending to be someone else in subtle ways. It is exhausting. And like, I know that I have a professional voice. You know, I have a voice that I talk to other people in, and then I have my voice that I have with you, and then there's like, and I go, believe it or not, one step further when I'm with Neil, because I put all my accents and talk in ways. But like, yeah, I think, you know, it is absolutely exhausting, like putting on this mask, being another person. I think it also increases, you know, your anxiety and your depression a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you are, like, feeling like you can't be yourself, that can take a toll on your mental health.
It can take a toll. I think it's like, I think the best way to put it is like neurotypical people, they go somewhere, they just show up, and it's chill. Their energy starts declining from when they show up.
Yeah.
For us, it takes energy just to show up.
Dude, the mental preparation. The mental preparation to show up.
Yeah. And then you're always thinking, am I doing this correctly, socially correctly?
I don't know whether you do this, but sometimes when I go out and I'm like in social situations, for no reason whatsoever, I'll come home and I will start overthinking what I've said to people. Yes. And I think I've said the wrong thing. And then I think that person hates me all of a sudden. And I know that's the RSD kicking in at that point. Yeah. But I'll run through conversations with Neil and I'm like, hey, do you think I said the wrong thing here?
Yes.
And he's like, no. And I'm like, it's like, why did they react in the wrong way? And I was like, no, but the social anxiety.
It is like so many of my conversations with you is like, was I too neurodivergent?
Yeah. Oh my God. Again, a lot of our texts are going, no, you're okay. It's fine. Things are fine.
Logical. Yes, the other person.
The other person was not.
Yeah.
And I actually don't know how helpful that is because we're both neurodivergent, so I don't know whether... But you know, for the most part, the scenarios you're bringing to me, I feel like you're being quite straightforward and pretty, like, in my head, I don't understand some people's processes. So there's also that. I think with masking as well, what I see with a lot of my clients is there's a loss of identity. A lot of people struggle to separate their true self from their masked self, and sometimes don't even know that they're masking. And a lot of people come into therapy and they're like, Anushka, I'm trying to figure myself out. I'm trying to figure out who I am and, like, you know, what I enjoy. And it's like, yeah, that's really hard. Like, who are you? I don't know who I am.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, after I got my diagnosis and started unmasking, I realized a lot of my personality was fake. Like, it really was just me masking and figuring out how to survive in this world and be accepted.
Yeah. What did you notice the most?
I realized I thought my purpose in life was to like do this great thing and change the world and everything. But now I know my purpose in life is to just chill and have fun.
I love that. I love this for you. That is incredible.
But that made me go through such an existential crisis.
Oh my god, for real though.
Because everything I worked towards and worked for, it all just didn't matter anymore.
Yep.
And I was like, oh.
But then you start feeling like you're being selfish, right? You're just like, am I doing the wrong thing?
Yeah.
Should I be like maintaining status quo?
Yeah. Or like there were certain people I didn't actually enjoy and I was just hanging out with them because I thought I had to.
Yeah, and then you stop and you're like, oh, I have less friends but better quality friends.
Yes.
Yeah. Massive difference.
Yeah. So
when you're surrounded by like a proper circle, it's just yeah.
And incredible. I've been doing that for a long time, but there are moments still now where I'm like, oh, am I masking? Or
and like doing that reality check with yourself, I guess. That's a massive thing. The last thing that I'll say that, you know, that this affects, that masking affects, is like delayed diagnosis. I think especially for women, like because we mask so heavily. Yes. For women, I think also for people of color, like, because we mask so heavily. Yeah. You don't get diagnosed until a lot later in life, and I think that really affects diagnosis rates. Yes. You know, or like we because we're like we'll try and adjust to like social expectations and stuff like that a lot more. Yeah. Even with like little girls, you know, you'll notice that exactly, and like the way that they present and what's right and what's wrong again.
And this is why the diagnosis process is also like problematic in that sense, because when I went through a diagnosis with my psychiatrist, I got into a fight with him because he was like, do you do this, like do you show your hyperactivity this way, do you like interrupt when people are talking? And I'm just like, no, because I've learned that's rude, so I don't do it.
Because I've learned at some point on a more like, you know, safety level, that if I interrupt, I will be told off, or or this person will withdraw their love, or whatever like support that they have for me, and therefore I will not have that security, and that's not good.
Exactly.
100%. Because we learn behaviors, and it's trauma response all over again. It's messed up. Okay, how do we unmask and embrace? Find friends who are neurodivergent and get weird.
I think that is the best.
It is, genuinely.
Honestly, it is. Because I think it was easy for me to unmask because before I knew I was neurodivergent, the people I was hanging out with were probably also neurodivergent. Yeah. So I didn't know there was something different about me.
Correct, yeah.
And then the more I guess grew up and I had to meet other people who were neurodivergent, I started feeling that otherness. And I was like, wait a minute.
That's so true.
Why don't I feel safe to be myself around
like this
these
is
people?
Weird.
Why am I getting negative reactions?
That's it.
Yeah.
I say get weird in front of people and see who sticks around.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like ripping the Band-Aid off in a way.
It is, yeah.
You kind of have to do it. You have to do the internal work to feel okay with doing it first, and not. I think it takes a lot of courage.
It does. I think a lot of courage. It also takes a lot of self-awareness, right? You need to recognize where and why you mask.
Yes.
And in some situations, it's probably necessary. It might be necessary. We live in a really shitty neurotypical world, and it's not designed for neurodivergence, and that's just how things are. But like being aware of it and knowing how to take care of yourself as a result of that is really important.
Yeah.
But then having self-compassion, you know, like having ADHD isn't necessarily a flaw. You know, it's just a different way of thinking. I would argue sometimes a better way of thinking. You really think out of the box. We're really resourceful. There's a lot of positives, you know.
So many positives.
So many positives. I think the negatives is that it's more environmental factors. It's that you can't. And I mean, we are lucky in that respect as being therapists and being able to figure out hours and things like that. But like, like I can't, and I have worked a 9-to-5 job, so I know, and you have too, like we know what it feels like to be stuck in like this capitalistic society, you know, which is a whole other topic, but it is capitalistic, and it is built in a way where like you struggle to function. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration comes from. That's where a lot of the masking comes from as well.
I think good place to start is finding small pockets or environments or people where you can unmask
community
safely,
support
without worried about being othered or rejected.
Correct.
Start there.
And I'd say the last thing to do is maybe advocate for yourself and others, and set boundaries. Like instead of overcompensating, say in the work environment, ask for like an accommodation that you need.
Yes.
You know, whatever that might look like.
Yeah. And don't smile.
Yeah. If you don't feel like it, you can leave your face like this.
Just don't.
Yeah. Or if you want to smile a whole heap, do that too.
Yeah.
Maybe don't do it in a creepy way. But do it.
If you want. It's kind of like you're rediscovering yourself again.
I agree. Yeah.
So it's not going to happen overnight.
It's not.
It's going to take time. You're going to go back and forth. You're going to realize what is a safe amount of unmasking you can do in general public versus the things you actually have to mask just to, I don't know,
get through
life.
Yeah.
Get the things you want to do.
Yeah. I'd say stay authentic, stay real to yourself wherever you can, whenever you can.
Yeah, and the more authentic and the more authentic you can be and the more you can unmask, the less tired you will be.
Oh, 100%. You know, like I learned this even being a practitioner. Yeah. I am just my old unhinged self sometimes as a therapist, and I think it works. Like my clients appreciate the authenticity. I feel like you attract rails, but I attract a lot more of the clients that are similar to me and who appreciate that and who need that in their life, because then they can relax. Yeah. You just see a lot of I can be myself.
Yeah, and the same with like friendships. The more authentic you are, the more you're going to attract other unhinged people, which is great.
Yeah.
And then the more you mask, the more you're going to attract friends who you always have to mask around.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So it's kind of like, you know, you just start it and then it all falls into place eventually.
It will. And it'll be amazing when it does.
Yes.
That support system is really important.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, until next time, this is us, I guess.
Yeah.
I was going to say something.
We need to think of a good outro.
We need a, like, you know, like in that, there's a podcast and they go like, stay sexy, don't get murdered. That's a great outro.
Alrighty.
Anyway, on that note.
All right, see you next time.
See you next time.
As usual, our disclaimer at the end of each episode: Girls That ADHD does not provide personalized ADHD management advice for your individual needs. Although we are mental health care practitioners, Girls That ADHD is not a substitution for therapy or counseling of any kind. Girls That ADHD exists for educational and entertainment purposes only and should not be relied upon to make decisions about your mental health, well-being, and ADHD management. Advice and conversations from Girls That ADHD are general in nature and do not consider individual circumstances. Always do your research and please seek out guidance from your mental health care team or ADHD coach as required. Okay then, till next time, bye!